can start, Tristano.
Okay, thank you very much, Juan, for organizing this, and thank you to Cooperativa Agro-alimentarias to think about this very interesting and timely event. You know, sometimes we may forget, we talk about carbon farming, and carbon farming will be done by farmers and by land managers. So it's very, very important to always keep the dialogue open and to understand what these actors feel and thinks about this this opportunity, this business model. And this is why when you proposed to me to organize this event, I thought it was an excellent idea. We decided to keep this within these three projects that at the time of you know, even in the topics description was required this credible Marvik and MRV for SOC to collaborate. So we decided to keep it close, but we are recording this, and then we'll see whether we can share this to a broader audience. Let me share, because I was sharing it, but I guess when you started the recording, it stopped. You should now see the presentation. Just confirm, and I will.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So briefly, I don't want to take much time from the other speakers, which are the main characters and of this webinar. Also because you probably know about Credible. Credible started in June. I don't see the presentation because I see myself. So let's minimize. Okay, so we are 21 partners, quite a big consortium, considering that there wasn't a big budget behind it or to support it. But it started in June. It's really a coordination and support action whose main goal is to build momentum and trust to achieve credible carbon farming in the EU. So we have four main goals. Let's say, well, the main goal is to build this network of networks, you know, to create trust and consensus. It's basically bringing together those stakeholders that hold the knowledge and have the experience, and they can share this and make sure that we get whatever is out there, the best option and the most developed knowledge, let's say, and on that we build the future, whether it's policy, whether there are specific concrete actions. So in order to build this network of network, we focused on three main areas, which is which practices are of interest in carbon farming or might be useful, what standards, you know, how you certify, what policy mechanism can we adopt, and how to monitor carbon fluxes, carbon, or if you want to make it a bit broader, greenhouse gases, but Credible, it's a bit more focused on soil carbon. The fundamental unit of the Credible project, where these discussions happen, are the focus groups. So around these three key areas that I said, which practices, what standard and how to monitor, we have 11 focus groups, which are tackling very specific questions. And basically these focus group are composed of some members or partners of Credibles and other external partners that have been invited and are open in a way. You know, we expect every year to go through a cycle, and every year we may change some partners, open it up, make the group bigger. But that's the fundamental unit. And the way it would work is, you know, there are some, the focus group would meet, would discuss, would generate some sort of shareable consensus, a report, anything. This would be shared at the summit with the broader community. And at that moment, you know, the broader community would have to enrich that shareable consensus, and this would be fine-tuned through follow-up conversation, also involving the publication in the website, where we will have a kind of a survey or a request for the broader community to comment on this on the knowledge that we put together, and we will repeat this cycle 3 times. So this is the main way experts and stakeholders in general can collaborate or get involved in Credible and get involved in creating or in promoting a credible carbon farming in the EU. The next milestone we have is this carbon farming summit that will happen in Valencia. I'm sorry, I'm using a old kind of screenshot because it says contribution submission will open soon. That's well past. Actually, unfortunately, we had to close the registration to the summit because we went overbooked in no time. You must understand this is a new project, and even if we knew that there was interest in carbon farming, the project just happened in June, and having an event like a congress or summit in March, we couldn't aim for having 500 people. We wanted to make the place safe, so we booked a place where we could fit a few. The largest room is 200, and we are probably trying to accommodate maybe 270, 280 people in the venue. But we have had over 350 registrations, so we'll have to kind of hopefully some of those won't come, but it's gonna be booked, fully booked, that's for sure. The summit will obviously reflect Credible structure, so we'll have mainly 3 sections, and as I said, here are some of the details that you can to get ready for what you will experience there. The last point I want to make, especially for those that are not involved in Credible, is that in Credible we kind of not push, but we believe that carbon farming it's gonna be more impactful when practices that increase carbon stocks are identified and adapted to the specific context of farming system. So those practices that are relevant in the Mediterranean context and with certain, maybe a perennial cultivation, maybe not relevant for some management of grassland in Ireland, and that's pretty obvious. So it makes sense to make kind of methodologies and carbon farming schemes that are really kind of landscape, or at least regional or landscape based. So we will, in a way, in Credible, we have a process where we kind of try to build on early mover innovative initiatives on carbon farming at the regional level, and see whether we can help the European community to kind of develop a blueprint for regional carbon farming schemes. And with this, I have completed my presentation, so it was very quick. So up to you, Juan, if anyone has some question, or we can move.
If yes, there is still 3 minutes room for a quick question from any of you regarding the Credible project. So please raise your hand, and I will active your camera or your micro. And if it is not the case, I will ask to Irene de Tovar, that I think she's already present in the meeting, to active your camera. You will be the next speaker. Irene, are you there?
Hi, Juan here.
Hi,
Good morning.
hi, good morning. Good morning. Are you going to use a presentation?
I love to. Should I just share it?
Yes, try to do it, just in
Okay.
case there is any problem.
Mm.
Welcome to Irene de Tovar, and thanks for your intervention. Irene is a senior policy advisor on environment, climate change, and sustainability at Copa-Cogeca. Copa-Cogeca is the most relevant European organization bringing together farmers and cooperatives and at European scale. And as I said before, is one of the main stakeholders from the private sector regarding the conversation and negotiations about the carbon farming dossier and the carbon certificates. Any problem with the sharing of your presentation, Irene?
Yes. It seems I don't have this setting capabilities to actually share my presentation, so I send it to you by email. Perhaps you can help me
Okay, send me.
screening it. I already sent it to you, so you should have it in your email box.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
no, don't worry. We are taking advantage of the 3 minutes left from Tristano.
Perfect.
Okay, just a second. I didn't receive yet. Okay. Maybe
In the meanwhile, may I ask Irene, it's because you're not like a co-host of this event, they cannot share, or is something else?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that seems to be the problem, I think.
Because maybe Juan, that's another option, is that you
yes, it's another option, Tristano, but I don't know how to do it.
it's very
Sorry.
no, it's
Okay.
okay, but it's very easy. If you open the list of participants
Yes.
and
Okay.
you find Irene,
Yes. Okay.
and then on you probably see más or more.
Irene, okay. Okay. Make her a co-host. Completing
Yes.
computer. Okay. Okay.
Now it seems I got more options.
Yes.
Let's see.
Try
Breakout
to do it.
rooms, apps.
If
Now
not,
it
I,
should
I have the presentation already.
Okay. Well, if you can go ahead, while I figure this out, maybe you will have
Okay. So.
uh, uh, uh.
Okay. Okay.
Good. Oh, there we go.
Now, can you see?
Yes, we can see it. I mean, I can see it at least, so I hope the rest of the participants also can.
we see it, but not yes now.
Very well. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. So thanks for that, and sorry to the rest of the participants for the hiccups in the presentation. And also for my late entrance into the meeting. I was in a policy orientation meeting here at corporate premises, which, as Juan explained very well, it's the EU Association of Farmers, Foresters, and Agri-Cooperatives. Mainly, I would like to start this presentation by sort of explaining what is or how does Copa-Cogeca see carbon farming. And if we move to the first slide, I'll show you that for us it's a combination of mitigation and adaptation actions. This means that it's both actions that help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and actions that help remove CO2 from the atmosphere. So this is something that let's say englobes or rather has a more comprehensive perception of what carbon farming is. It's not only focusing on sequestration on the soil, but rather englobing all of these actions that take the farm as a whole unit. And we believe that this is crucial to ensure that the whole system, the whole farming system, can actually benefit from this sort of like transition to becoming even more sustainable than it actually is, and to having, say, a greener future. We believe that this is also aligned with the requirements under Article 2 of the Paris Agreement that actually requires countries to enable action in these both items. And we think that this is important because carbon farming is supposed to be a business model that works for the farmer and the forester, and obviously the agri-cooperatives or forest cooperatives that they may exist. And this should be a sort of benefit that is given not only as a service to society, where you actually grant an environmental services, but also a way of economically revalorizing that service to the farmers. So it's like a new stream of money into the farm. If we move to the next slide, please. This is sort of like explaining to you what are the main concerns and the main motivations for farmers to get into this new business model and into carbon farming. Obviously, on the one hand, on the motivation side, we've got the economic profitability that this can bring. Obviously, a farm or a forest, as any other business, needs to seek for it being profitable. But obviously, that's not the only reason. There is this intergenerational resilience, that it's taking care of the resources that you have, not just for you, but for future generations to come. And this is very important as we see that the sector is aging, and new farmers, new foresters are looking into this as is it really an opportunity for me? Can I actually make a business model out of this? And where would I like to take my business? If we think about this aging population, that also means that we need to find ways to get younger people involved in rural areas, in farming practices, in forest management practices as well. And that means obviously supporting them in this transition to newer business model that is not, let's say, silo farming perhaps, but more dynamic or innovative or new business models such as carbon farming could be. But as you can see, also the concerns are plentiful, and they seem to be larger than the say motivations. And that's mainly because this is a completely new setting that we are trying to come up with. This has not been done before, not in the EU nor elsewhere. And we do see that some other countries, such as the States or New Zealand or Australia, are trying to also implement carbon farming. Each one of them has a different method. Each one of them has a different way of looking at things, but we also have different farming sectors and characteristics. So what happens here is that obviously we see that for the current carbon farming schemes that are there, the compensation is way too low, and in a lot of cases it doesn't even cover the techniques or the practices that need to be implemented to actually shield those results. So that's a big concern. Then we also see that there is a substantial amount of paperwork to be done. This administrative burden, it eats up the day of a farmer, and sometimes it can be so complicated that you will actually require somebody to work at it at a technical level. Then there are all of these concerns regarding the predictability and of the system, or rather the lack of thereof. We don't have harmonized methodologies, though we hope that with the carbon farming certification framework that it's currently under revision or under co-legislation at both the Parliament and the Council, that's going to be modified and that's going to be improved. And obviously there are a lot of frustration when it comes to like smaller units versus larger unit of farming, and like what you can actually do as a smaller farm, and what resources are there available to you. Then obviously you do see as well a lack of the necessary expertise, how to handle the data, how to set up a strategic planning, like a business plan for your farm, and so on and so forth. So all of these tools are very, very, very important. And we do see that there are certain projects such as, Credible, that are very much helping or trying to like direct these shortcomings into an improved system. Obviously, the farmers are also concerned about additionality or greenwashing as well. So like, how are my credits calculated? What is considered additional? What are these claims of greenwashing by, some NGOs or companies? How do I ensure that what I actually provide, it's proper, it actually has this scientific value? And obviously, to whom do I sell my credits, and for how long do I sell them? What are the legal concerns associated with the length of my credit, the obligations across the value chain, for my current obligations, for the future ones that I may get into, and so on and so forth. And most importantly, what are my liabilities? What mechanisms are there to ensure that my liability is limited, and how do we set this up? And as I said, this is like, a lot of these concerns are trying to be addressed, or like that, yeah, we are trying to address them through the certification framework of carbon removals, which is now under the co-legislation of the Parliament and the Council. So perhaps that would be my next slide. I believe it gives you an overview of the calendar. So you know that for those of you that may not be so familiar with the process of co-legislation, the Commission makes a proposal, and then it's for the Parliament and the Council to have each of them a separate mandate on them, and then they enter into trilogue negotiations where they try to find a solution, so a final compromise. And then they vote on this compromise, and then it finally becomes law. So now we are in the stage where like they're negotiating this compromise. So we have the final trilogue, so it's a final negotiation on the 19th of February. So you can see how this month is very important. And then here you can see that the 14th of February, this is the Coreper 1 meeting. That is the meeting that it prepares the council for its let's say, its position when it comes to negotiating with the Parliament on the 19th, which means that all of our lobbying action vis-a-vis the Council needs to happen before the 14th of February. When it comes to the Parliament, they have, let's say, more continuous meetings, but obviously those are taking place this week and next week as well. And they have figures such as rapporteurs and shadow rapporteurs that are, let's say, assigned with leading the dossier and being, most prominent or most engaged with it. So those are the key people to be in touch with. Then we expect the agreement to be voted in March in Committee on Environment, which is the committee responsible for it, and finally we'll go for the vote in plenary. We've gone back to the concerns.
Yes.
Let's go. If we move forward, I'd like to give you an overview of, there we go. What are the main concerns right now for the trialogues? So the Parliament set up a framework, a structure where it enabled the creation of credits for carbon farming that was either reductions or removals. So both of them would be eligible for the generation of a credit. These would just be different units. And carbon farming will be different, for instance, to industrial carbon storage or carbon stored in products. And finally, in the last trilogues that took place, the council accepted this, let's say, setting. But now, when it comes to the scope of the reductions, there's still a discussion on this. Why? Because the parliament accepts, for instance, reductions of methane, whereas the parliament accepts that, whereas the council does not accept reductions of greenhouse gas emissions beyond those that come from the soil. So they will be looking at CO2 and nitrous oxide only. But it is under debate, and we are trying to make sure that the council gets closer to the parliament position, just to ensure that the whole agriculture sector can see compensation for all of the efforts done in both mitigation and adaptation. Finally, following on this, we also have concerns about the definition of operators, a group of operators. With the parliament's mandate, there was a clear distinction for carbon farming, that operators meant a farmer or a forester as defined under the CAP. And this is very important because we see that in other jurisdictions, there has been a huge risk of land grabbing, and we don't want that to happen. So we wanted to make this link between carbon farming and the production of agriculture products or forest or wood products. And this is something that is still under debate, but we want to make sure that it is still there. And the same goes for a group of operators. The parliament captured the essence and the need to ensure that agri-cooperatives were actually given a role there to play when it came to the generation of credits. And we want to see that the council also agrees on that. Also on the co-benefits, this is a very difficult point because both institutions have moved towards mandatory co-benefits or somehow mandatory co-benefits, where like we do believe that the co-benefits should be something voluntary that comes as an additional premium to the generation of your carbon credit. The credit is for a reduction or a removal of a greenhouse gas, and if it is generating a co-benefit in terms of sustainability or biodiversity, that should come as a top-up to your credit. We need to think about this from an international arena point of view, where we're already talking about biodiversity credits that are different from carbon credits. So if we encompass this in a single credit as a mandatory requirement, then we are losing part of these credits that are also happening and part of this sphere that is happening internationally. So those are two separate things that should be treated separately. They can be integrated, but we cannot understand it as being something that it's mandatory for the farmer to provide. If it does provide for that, it should be an additional value for the farmer to receive as a premium. This is also linked as well to like perhaps you would see certain co-benefits linked to a reduction of greenhouse gases on your soil or a removal of CO2 in your soil, but you will see some others if you are doing methane reductions, for instance. So all of these differences need to be ensured into the methodologies, need to be encompassed in the whole infrastructure, and ensuring that happens means that you also cannot make co-benefits mandatory. And then we have two items. One is there was an inclusion in a recital in the last draft that we got from the negotiations on GAEX as statutory requirements. We talked to the Commission, to DG Agri on this, and they also signalized that this is not desirable, and we hope that in the new documents that will not be included. At least we've seen the Parliament and the Commission both to be reticent to have it there. And then the other part is on the use of these certificates. There is agreement on not having double counting, on ensuring that there are no fake credits, that credits are not counted twice, etc. But then when it comes to how you can use those credits, where should you use it and how should you use it, we don't think that the certification framework should be the place to develop those rules. We do have other legislation that should be looking into that, and we hope the co-legislators understand that this is not the purpose of this certificate. This is it from an update on the institutions and how they are advancing. I hope I was clear, but if not, I'll welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Irene. Quite clear, and at the same time, very on deep perspective of the situation of the main issues, main relevant topics for discussion. I think if you both agree, Irene and Marc, that we can continue with the intervention of Marc. Marc, are you going to use a presentation, or are you going to?
Yes, I'm going to
Okay.
try to share it.
Okay, try. I am going to repeat.
Normally
Okay.
you should see it.
Yes, we can
So
see it.
I will put it on full screen.
So after Marc's presentation, of course, if you put any question in the chat, we can retrieve it and to address to both of speakers. But if not, you can raise your hand and we will give you the floor. Okay, but after the Marc presentation. So thank you, Marc, for being here. Marc is a senior advisor on horizontal questions in European Landowners Organization. Probably you know perfectly it is the organization that represents the landowners in before the European institutions. Maybe Marc is going to present better than me the organization. So Marc, welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you very much for the opportunity. You will see that in lots of points, I will sometimes repeat myself with what Irene has said, because on the point of carbon farming and more in general, the carbon removal certification framework, we are on the basic comments quite well aligned. First element is that, yeah, for us, from the start, even when the first time the Green Deal was launched, for us, ELO has been supporting the establishment of a carbon removal certification framework even before the proposal was emerged, because carbon removal certification is for us a very important instrument to make to realize one of the most advanced European payment schemes for ecosystem services. We think that the proposal has the potential to improve the current voluntary market by establishing prices and even increasing them. But we see at the moment, and those elements were already very well illustrated by Irene, we see that some elements of the direction of travel of the current discussion is putting the idea at risk, stifling the existing market rather than supporting it, and putting the land managers again at a disadvantage. So I think we are at a crucial moment. We are at the end of the trialogues, so we have to see that, in fact, we arrive with the right context. So certifying carbon removals is for us a vital element for the success of and the credibility of soil carbon storage initiatives. And also for the related co-benefits, because we have seen this always as a leverage to get payment for all the co-benefits generated through the measures and the practices that are applied to reduce and store carbon. And that's the reason why we support the establishment of a carbon removal certification scheme, because we think it ensures effectiveness, it ensures transparency, it strengthens the credibility, and it allows for carbon removal payments which are essential to require landowners to engage in carbon removal efforts. Some elements of concerns, and we just put some. It's not exhaustive. We just put the major one on the screen. Yeah, the carbon removal certification framework aims to have effectiveness and transparency. So it will depend quite a lot on how the MRV is put in place, how it is harmonized or not, to what level, at what level it is harmonized or not, how credible it is, what to do with the different with remote sensing, how to make it affordable, to have the right balance, in fact, between measurement, reporting, and verification, and the robustness and the affordability at farmers level. Also, this quality criteria for us it's quite important because we are looking for a sort of quality stamp. Very recently, we saw in the press that another operator, an intermediary who was offering a lot of carbon standards throughout Europe, has some problems to get his claims verified by Vera. So it's quite important. It's a question we asked already from the start, that when a farmer is approached, when a landowner is approached by a certain standard scheme owner, that he can judge if this owner has in fact the right standard to offer. So this quality stamp is quite important for us. And like Irene said, at the moment, the discussions are focused unilaterally on removals, while we think it's also important to have a view on reductions and even on avoided emissions, because when you look at peatland rewetting, you're not starting with storing, but in the first instance, you are trying to avoid emissions by rewetting the peatlands. Also, the issues on additionality and permanence. When we look at baselines, of course, we would like that early users' efforts are recognized, but also all regional, local, and activity-based differences, which are quite huge, as we know, throughout Europe. And then when you look at the contract length, the contract conditions, we think that certificates have to have at least a minimum contract length, which is sufficiently long. And that, of course, combined with the necessary liability mechanisms by regrouping farmers in districts, on landscapes, and by that creating some insurance mechanisms. So pooling the risk and by that trying to cover the liabilities. How should policy support MRV and financing? I told you already, invest in reliable but affordable MRV. This balance is quite important. Like Irene said, reduce administrative costs at the maximum. Include co-benefits, because in fact, carbon on itself, we see already in scientific reviews that it can be counterproductive. So what a farmer and a landowner is searching at the end is in fact climate-friendly agriculture, generating all those co-benefits. So it's important that we not only stick at this only element of single element of carbon, but we try also to integrate the other elements. And then allowing a widespread use of carbon certificates. And I would like to enter this to give a little bit more detail, because at the moment this whole discussion between offsetting and insetting looks like that offsetting would be prohibited, and that major focus will be on insetting. Okay, we understand the potential risk of double counting and all those type of things, but perhaps we can find other methods to overcome that problem than just by excluding offsetting as a potential use of the carbon certificates and carbon credits generated on the basis of the carbon certificates. Because when you look at a non-food company, he buys the generated carbon impact regardless of the underlying production to compensate its emission. And that's the big, and then when you look at a food company, he's also, of course, interested in carbon impact generated to offset the scope 3 emissions. But in that aspect, he's willing to pay some contribution for the carbon impact. But what we see in practice, we have some concerns, is that there is a difficulty in allocating the impacts generated by the farmers on the land to a specific crop, let's say even a specific product. We see that sometimes prices that are offered are related to the share of the raw material in the crop rotation. We see that some agreements include that prohibition of engaging with other parties. Of course, it's understandable from a point of view of double counting, but on the other hand, it's an obstacle for the landowner farmer to maximize, in fact, the reward for the efforts made. And what we see also is that our clients are also asked by their clients to calculate product environmental footprints, including carbon impact. So there is a need to, when we want to realize the full potential of the carbon market, we need to develop models that allocate the carbon impact generated to crops and their derived food products, and also make the link to the product environmental footprint calculations. So as a conclusion, the success of the carbon farming initiative depends on the development of the voluntary markets, and the certification methodologies proposed should incentivize the participation and improvements of this voluntary market over time. And when we can do this, I think we can make a very important step forward. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Marc, for stick tightly to the time proposed. We have enough room for some exchange of opinion and questions. I think Irene and Marc has explained it very well. What are the ambitions and the current position of the farming sector? So the floor now is for the attendance to the webinar. It seems we have a question from Benjamin Sanchez from the Spanish National Research Institute, and it is: many carbon practices are already considered in the eco schemes proposed by some countries under CAP, Common Agricultural Policy. Could the farmer adopting them getting also an economic support from carbon farming payment schemes? In other words, are both schemes, eco schemes or eco regimes with a new certification system, they are compatible? I think the question is clear. It is not addressing specifically to any of you both. So even Tristano, I think you can also reply, but maybe ladies first. Irene, do you have any opinion about the compatibility of both schemes?
Yes, thanks for that question. It is a very valid one and a very difficult one to actually assess. It all depends where you put the baseline, I would say. If the baseline is put, let's say, on an individual level, or if it's put on practice levels, that will make a huge difference. Also, it would also depend on what activities are requested for you to do in each one of the schemes as well, whether they will be compatible or not, whether one goes beyond or not. So it's very hard to say a yes or no answer whether you would still be entitled to like generate that credit and could benefit from both or not. It's very much on a case-by-case basis, and we certainly hope that with the setting of the baseline through the methodologies, we will have some clarity on this. This is a question that we've been asking the Commission to clarify as well for long, and we always said that we need to make sure that we make a differentiation from those schemes or subsidies or, let's say flows of money that are derived for the production of food, and those they may be derived for the generation of a carbon credit, as we would like to have both seen as, two different commodities coming from the farm.
Okay, Irene, I am going to elaborate, introduce a new topic on this question, because I expect replies from Marc and Tristano, because one of our concerns are that, for instance, in Spain, the eco schemes is already ongoing since a year ago, and the people are changing the way for production. They are putting cover crops, they are using conservation farming, and is there a risk that we cannot take advantage of those changes because we haven't yet a proper certification scheme? Tristano, Marc?
Yeah, I go first. This is a question of this additionality. As long as the baseline is not determined, everything you do before the baseline is determined will be included in your baseline, to my knowledge.
I mean, to add to this, obviously, my feeling is that, carbon farming is pretty much dynamic. So it's not about maybe a year-to-year review of the baseline, because it would be, very difficult. But it is true that, if what you try to promote through a carbon farming scheme becomes the new practice in 5 or 10 years, then you may want to think what is the next additional thing we can do to do carbon farming, because then it became a common practice and is included in the baseline. So it's gonna there will always be an element of a dynamic interaction between what is happening and what you can try to promote and what will generate credits, and that's kind of a lens I guess we need to learn to wear all the time when designing carbon farming schemes. So it is pretty much like this.
Okay, thank you to you also, Tristano. There is a comment in the chat. Maybe Grit, maybe you can put your camera on, and there is Grit. Okay, do you have any problem? Okay, thank you, Grit. Put your mic on.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Good morning to everybody. Yeah, I share also the concerns that Marc has expressed regarding offsetting and insetting. I'm also a bit puzzled how that could be and how that could be solved. Because I feel a little bit, certainly for farmers, as from the moment that they have one crop in the rotation, that is that he is obliged to have under one, well, he's selling to a company that is working with the BEVs, or that is registering the Scope 3 emissions. He will not be able anymore to enter the voluntary carbon farming market, because that will be seen as double counting. So I fear just a little bit that at the end, a majority of the farmers will simply have no choice and only be able to be in an insetting context, even though if they only have one crop in the rotation. And so the advantage that they can get to earn more money will be at the power of this agro-food industry. And so probably, there is a risk that in the beginning they get more money, but at some point, it's becoming the norm, and there will be no premium anymore because all farmers need to comply.
Okay, thank you. Great. More questions? Okay, you can raise your hand and we will give you the floor. In the meanwhile, I have a questions about the potential compensations, because as Marc expresses, the more clear path for to take some benefits on carbon certificates is the voluntary market. But what would be the next steps after this proposal agreement on carbon certificate? Do you think the European Commission is going to put any kind of incentives or introduce within a potential or future emission trade schemes to agriculture in order to introduce these certificates as a value? Or what would be the next steps? Because of course the farming sector is interested in the theory of all of this new framework, but of course their main interest is how to monetize these certificates. So what are your opinion about next steps?
First thing that has to be done is, in fact, to have a reliable measurement of the generated impact by the farmer. Once you have this, that's the reason why we are so pro for this, that there is a regulation that determines very clearly this impact. Once the impact has been established, then then you have a product, let's say, or a service you can sell to third parties. And then this product of this service, this ecosystem service, it can be rewarded through different mechanisms. It can be rewarded by public money. It can be rewarded by private money. When you speak about public money, it's rewarded by the tax, in fact, financed by the taxpayer. When you speak about private money, it's financed finally by the consumer. In all cases, it will be financed by the citizen, either as taxpayer or by the consumer. And we think you have to go for a combination of the two. The first question on eco-schemes. Eco-schemes is an instrument to pay farmers to reward farmers for the effort through the taxpayers' money, while the voluntary carbon market is in fact a way to finance, to reward the farmer through a payment generated by the consumer, the citizen as a consumer. So that will be, we need to have a combination of the two, in our opinion, and the combination of the two will probably cover both. Will cover the complete impact that farmer landowner is generating on his land. So the first step is, of course, like I said, to have a credible a credible outcome of the impact generated by the farmer. And therefore, it's so important that this regulation has been done, will be in place. Once that's put in place, then we have this necessary quality stamp we have to get this sufficient credibility to launch and to develop this voluntary, this market access aspect of ecosystem services.
Clear, Marc. Irene, Tristano, you want to say something in addition? Or if not, we have a comment in the chat. Arthur, if you want, you can also to say by yourself. If not, I can read. Substance shared has released last month a white paper dedicated to this issue of crop rotation within insetting perspective, challenges and solutions for allocating greenhouse gas mitigation outcomes, contextualized in agricultural supply chain. Okay, Arthur?
Yes, hi everyone. Yeah, this was just related to the question of grid about the insetting and when you only have one crop in the rotation that is bought by the corporate within the supply chain. And we participated also. I'm from Sol Capital, and we participated to this white paper from SustainCert, which tries to find a solution to that specific issue related to insetting. So it was just to share that paper, which was released last month.
Thank you, Arthur. I have a question regarding the mitigation issue, because of course the farming sectors will be able to obtain some certificate, not only for removals but also for emission reduction. But what do you think about? Do you think it is possible beyond this certification framework, considering that there are some limitations about the use of emission reduction in the Paris Agreement, and also that it is not clear that the voluntary markets would accept this kind of reduction certificates, because we know that it is a controversial topic even within the organizations and the position of the council. I think there is some kind of battle fight between France and Germany regarding this topic. What do you think about the situation of this controversial topic? Maybe Irene?
Perhaps I'll take this one, but obviously if Tristano or Marc feel like they want to add something, please jump on it. I think that we need to acknowledge the shortcomings of reductions in certain scenarios. For instance, if we are talking about compensating hard-to-abate emissions from other sectors with reductions that will raise a lot of eyebrows for many institutions and NGOs. But as you can see as well, there is a high demand from within the value chain to have these credits to reduce scope 3 emissions. And we have several participants highlighting how they already see a demand from their own value chains. And that means that there is a market there for those. So perhaps it gets to the point that we will be looking at two markets. That's not something that it is something that we are claiming now that we should have, but it's something that in the future, when we see how these two different lines develop, it may need that it develops in that line of business to sort of safeguard both the offsetting part and the insetting parts. We need to be aware, obviously, that whenever farmers or forest owners may be getting into contractual obligations with other actors within the value chain that may entitle them selling carbon credits. They are giving these actors sort of power over those, not only for the credit, but also if they are linking the commodity to that credit, that means that they are also making a linkage of a certain amount of years. So it is a very difficult topic to sort of grasp, and certainly can have multiple consequences for your business as a whole. But I do see the possibility of having both of them, even with different markets, playing a crucial role, and at the end, one that can have multiple benefits for their community.
Marc, Tristano, do you have any comment about the words of Irene?
We are always supporting reduction and removals together, like I stated in the presentation. So Of course, there are some drawbacks, but just simply excluding is a little bit too easy. So we have to work then on the drawbacks and to say that, in fact, these drawbacks are remediated, and if that's the case, okay, we can include them.
Okay.
I actually have a small question. Can I? It's about price and how the benefits are shared between the various actors that contribute to generate that value, and specifically focusing on carbon removal. I mean, my understanding of where carbon farming, carbon markets may go in a few years is it's probably towards carbon credits that have an increased value, because if many policies that are happened, then that would be kind of the obvious results. But carbon farming to start today requires investments. So generally what happens is that, to cover those investments, those kind of the farmers or landowners needs to be financed. And so there are economic actors that intervene and kind of pre-finance, so they maybe keep the credits for themselves later on. So this may, if this speculation become true, may lead to a situation where maybe farmers and landowners are being paid a certain amount for generating credits, and those credits when they will actually emerge, because after the end of the certification period or so on, in 10 years, they will value a lot more, and this value would stay with whatever has intervened or financed. Have you seen the emergence of mechanism that would kind of contribute to a fair share of that value through the various sector, if you have any experience on those?
In fact, that was my point that I made in the presentation, is that you have at the one time you have this impact generated, on the other time you got an allocation, of course, an allocation issue. And a colleague from Soil Capital mentioned the study. We will read it with a lot of interest, but at the moment these allocation models are not very well developed, and they should be developed with also the equivalent transparency and effectiveness that is as a goal of the certification framework, because it will be one of the key elements to maximize the reward at landowner farmers level. When these models do not exist, I think when you look at a pure offsetter who is not concerned with the underlying crops, he will, by definition, pay more than a company is only interested in his own underlying crop. It's simple arithmetics, in my opinion.
Okay, so it seems there are not more people deciding to intervene. So if you agree, Tristano, we can finish the session here. Remember that everything is recorded, so through a credible project you can access to the records of this event. Thank you again firstly to Tristano for his collaboration, and of course to our very relevant speakers, Irene and Marc. It is clear that the farming sector is well positioned in this dossier, and it has very clear ideas, and so I think its lobby will be quite effective in this occasion. So thank you to all the attendants for following with interest this event, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Tristano.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.